All right, guys, welcome to the Western Edge app. We're here with Tyler Pettigrew. All right, so one of the biggest things or questions I have, and I'm sure other fans have, is like the preparation coming in, the day of the event. What is it? What does that look like for you? Kind of leading into the performance and the mindset and all of that.
Uh, you know, it's of course getting to the event, and you just hang out all day. Uh, you know, Rodeo clown nap time's a real thing. We got to have our naps. Um, and then it's sometime in the afternoon, your announcer, sound man, whoever is putting the event on, y'all link up. Check microphones, make sure the sound system's working, make sure the music's good. You and your announcer and everybody, you go over what acts you're gonna do. Um, Said, flipping a switch. Going into the arena is uh like I have this weird little nervous tick about me that like right before I get introduced, I'll kind of dry heave a couple of times, and I've never puked. It's just excited nerves. Like I'm excited, you're going out and entertaining people. You talk, you're the center of attention when you're talking in front of thousands of people at a time, and there's some nerves behind that sometimes. But once I step in that arena, my name's said, it's all over with. It's the switch is on. It's entertainer Tyler.
And how much of it? So, is it? Being an entertainer like this and kind of a funny man, I've actually this past probably year listened to a lot of comedians, and not just listening to comedians, but listening to how they prep, what that looks like, and then you start saying, for instance, you'll see a comedian that okay, great example. We go to rodeos all the time, right?
Yeah.
And so you're in front of a different crowd
Yep.
every time. So you're going to have similar, if not the very same, production because it's a new faces that need to hear the same thing. What does that look like as far as prepping? What you're getting ready to do.
So everybody that's been to a rodeo has seen the rodeo clown. There's the old school rodeo clown that will tell you the I broke down on the way here joke, mother-in-law jokes. I try not to tell jokes. I kind of I want to make everybody there feel like they're at a party. We're having fun. We're gonna clap our hands, we're gonna sing, we're gonna dance. A lot of my stuff's off the cuff. What the crowd's doing. What somebody in the crowd is doing. I feed off the crowd. I've got some set deals that I do. Like my Western Edge fan of the night, party animal of the night. That gets the crowd going. We give them something cool every night from the Western Edge app, and that I. I hate to say it, like I'm not an old school clown, because the old school clown is the pain in the announcer side. I want to be everybody's best friend. I'm the crowd's best friend. Me and the announcer are best friends. We're just there to have fun. And bring joy to people's lives for just a couple hours while they're watching the best sport ever. Professional bull riding and rodeo. That's rewarding enough for
And,
me.
and your the different skits, whatever you want to call them, that you kind of prep with. So basically, you read the crowd, and you're going to go in kind of a direction that they're kind of, doing,
Yeah.
kind of responding with.
Yeah, like the acts and stuff, those are kind of set.
Do you create those, or is that a production? Do they have certain acts that they like?
Certain people will hire you for, if they call you and they're like, "Hey Tyler, can you come to my rodeo?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Can you bring, your motorcycle act?" And I'm like, "Absolutely."
So that basically they look at you. They say, okay,
Yeah.
these are the different,
Yeah.
funny men that we're gonna have, and these are the different acts that they're known for.
Yeah.
They have in their pocket, and they
Yeah.
kind of go from there.
Yeah, yeah, kind of. Most of the time, us funny men decide what act we're doing. That's kind of
Do
solely
you have
on
a
us.
staple act, or do you have multiple, or the assortment of acts that you?
You know, I've got a staple act right now. It's called the Goober Driver. I come out there on a little mini motorcycle, and I'm looking for my guy to take to the airport, and security comes out. I get body slammed. He ends up shooting me, and my motorcycle blow up, and then he steals my motorcycle and chases me out. That right now is my staple act. I've got some other stuff in the works. Like my favorite acts are the crowd involvement acts, though. Like last night, you seen the banana race. I've got 5 foot long bananas, and I put people on, 3 people on them, and all 3 of them have to ride and race across the arena. When the crowd's out there, guys versus girls or whatever, they really get into it, because now part of them is out there, and even their friends, they're like, oh, our friends are out there, and crowd involvement stuff is always good. The more you bring the crowd into it, the better. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's cool. And man, we're traveling so much. Do you notice, like, for instance, between associations, okay?
Yeah.
Different crowds to expect. I mean, because you're gonna have crowds that are, 2,000 plus people in the stands,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're gonna have some of these associations maybe that consistently bring big crowds, and then you're also gonna have, times where weather's garbage.
Yep.
Last night's a great example.
Yeah.
It stormed all day.
Yeah.
All night last night, and that's gonna impact how many people come out. What does that look like for you? And how do you kind of navigate through a crowd that's maybe not as big, or maybe even just struggling to get it interacting?
That is the ultimate question. You kind of start doing everything, like you said, last night was the perfect example. It stormed, it was kind of cold and rainy. The people that came were awesome, but it took them a while to warm up and have fun, But once they did, they were a blast, Of course, your thousands of people, those are always fun. When you get 1,000, 10,000 people, oh my goodness, those are the ones that are easy,
That's what you live for.
That's what when you have 10,000 people scream at you and laugh at you, oh my goodness, it's a feeling like no other.
And it's crazy because, like, for me as an athlete, I don't even know. Like,
Yeah.
I'm so far removed from the crowd. Me and Keith were talking about it the other day, just about, like, just all the little things you did that you probably wouldn't even do if you knew somebody was looking at you, like,
Oh, yeah.
you're getting ready to get on, and, you got to blow your nose, and you just freaking, let out a, give her, yeah, yeah. and then you think about it, you're like, I think we're in a stadium, and there's 20,000 people, and they're probably staring right at me.
Yeah.
But for you, all the focus is on you, and you're focused on them, and
Yeah.
that's kind of it's a whole different deal.
So, whether it's a bull riding or a rodeo, the athletes and the contestants, they're the stars of the show. And I make that, very clear. Through the whole night, I'm like, hey, who wants to see Kyle Jones go 90 points? If, Emporia, Kansas, if you want to see him do it, let's get loud right now, And, you guys are the star of the show. I'm just there to help build it, and relieve the downtime. And like I said, like, make sure everybody that shows up had a good time. That is my number one goal.
And probably, being, so the places, okay, just thinking from an entertainer's standpoint, and then for me kind of understanding the flow of rodeo. So there's times where, maybe a bull's not leaving the chute, maybe one's not standing good, and all of a sudden there's this gap, right? And
Yeah.
that gap, tends to take attention away from the whole experience. People just, their minds will be occupied.
Yeah.
So that's kind of your place, and
Yeah.
and that's something where you almost have to be off the cuff, because you can't. That's not a planned. It's not a break. It's not an intermission.
Yeah.
You're not in between sections where it's all about Tyler Pettigrew. It's not
Yeah.
all about the funny man.
Yeah.
At that point, it's kind of a interrupted, unplanned silence.
Yeah, that's when you just, like, the whole time, like, while the announcer's building you guys up, or, you guys are riding, I'm out there, I'm cheering, I'm cheering my buddies on all the time. Like, I mean, if you all could hear me, I'm probably yelling louder than the crowd for you guys to ride your bulls. But at the same time, it's one of them deals that you're constantly thinking, okay, where am I going next? What am I saying next? And you're scanning. You're scanning the whole crowd, and you're like, okay, if I need something to say, I'm gonna go mess with these people right here, or I'm gonna talk about this, or I'm gonna talk about my Western Edge app party animal of the night, and get people up dancing and having a good time, and there's just so much thinking that goes on into it. Like, I mean, kind of in bull riding, you kind of quit thinking and just start reacting,
Sure, yeah.
And my job is
When we flip that switch, it's pulling focus. It's a
Yeah.
focus and aggression that's being pulled in.
Yeah.
And it actually takes all the distractions. Your awareness of surroundings. Actually, we're getting rid of that. Where
Yeah.
it's for you, you're probably actually expanding that because you
Yeah.
need to. You're not focused on me and you having a conversation. You're not focused on one thing. You're not focused on 10 people. You got two sides of the arena.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have three,
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
So you have all of this happening and kind of responding to.
Yeah, you're focused on the crowd. You're focused on the event itself. I've got to pay attention to what the bull riders are doing. What the producer, my arena director, is trying to tell me. What the crowd's doing. How they're reacting to things. Because like you said, there is different things. It's like, okay, well, they didn't really like that so much, so I'll go a different direction with things. Now. And sometimes, your announcer gets flustered, or has something he's got to do up there. So you're like, okay, I don't need I'll give him a break and let him get his stuff figured out. So it'll just be me, and I'll do my own thing. I don't need you to talk. You just do, you take care of your business so we can get back to, the show,
Hey, what is the relationship between you and the announcer, and like, how does that work? Because you're going to different events, different productions that have different announcers.
Oh, yeah.
So what does that look like, and how do you kind of prep that, or is most of that off the cuff too? That's one thing I always wondered, because it's one thing if you're going and it's the same guy and you kind of have built that relationship up and you have that rhythm.
Yeah.
But then, is it all off the cuff, and how much of it is kind of, you communicating with him and kind of planning what that looks like?
Like, for instance, like me and Dylan Gross, we work a lot together. And we work, Dylan knows where I'm going with something before I go with it. And Jacob Wallace, Chris Pyle, them guys, like I've worked with them so much that they know where I'm going, and they're like, okay, well, you know what? To help him out, I'm gonna play this song when he does this. Somebody new. I always tell him, I'm like, hey, I'm not your old school painting your side clown. I want to be your best friend, so let's be best friends. And you work together once, and like the first 5 minutes of working together, you kind of feel each other's rhythm out, and and a lot of it is rhythm. You're like, okay, this guy is, he likes to really stat the guys up and talk about where they've been, and it's like, okay, just let him do his thing. He'll come to me when he needs me. Or if I kind of see him running out of things to say or something, and I see something going on, I'll come in. And it's timing. Timing, and in the rodeo clown world, it's everything. I don't need, I can't be talking, when you nod your head. If I did, I wasn't paying good enough attention to what I've done, and that's on me, because he's not got a chance to talk about Kyle Jones, So, and
That's an interesting thing, because and for me, like, I don't care whatsoever, but I've noticed there's been times where I've rode where people are watching, right? And it's say it's on a televised, live streamed event,
Yeah.
and your family or one of your fans is watching, and they actually don't even cut to the ride until like the gate's opening or it's a quarter of the way through.
Yeah.
And it actually, for the consumer, for the fan, the viewer,
it's confusion.
yeah, it's confusion,
Yes.
and it's kind of an issue of instead of building up that experience, at that point you're cutting into it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting that you say that.
Yeah.
And so I could see that, and I could see then how I'm sure that you kind of follow some sort of tour. You probably have a few associations that you kind of go to, and you go to multiple of their events with kind of
Yeah.
the same, kind of like you just mentioned, like Chris Pyle and Dylan and these guys
Yeah.
that you work with quite often.
Yeah. I do a lot of IPRA rodeos, which is the International Professional Rodeo Association.
What? Go ahead and tell us what associations so far this year do you plan on entertaining with?
The IPRA, the NFPB, Amped Up Pro Bull Riding Tour, Bull Riders of America, the BOA, CF Productions, G2H. Shout out Zane Cook. We told him we weren't going to talk about G2H on here, but here we are. G2H, the Iowa Rodeo Cowboys Association, the MRCA, the Missouri Rodeo Cowboys Association. United Rodeo. I'll go anywhere.
And how much of those are like producers? So you have, like, for instance, you have MRTA, URA, IRT. Okay, good example. You could have one of those, but then that could be backed up by like Chuck McKellips, McKellips Rodeo, or so
Outlaw or something.
Probably roughly 4 or 5 different producers that you generally work with throughout the year, or more.
More. There's I think this year I'm working for about 12 or 13 different producers.
And how much did that change? Because you see, you'll see a great example. Before I started riding, okay, there was a rodeo in Troy, where I grew up, and at that time, I first kind of got introduced to rodeo, watching that in the PBR, but going to that rodeo, it always had real short.
Pork chop.
Pork chop.
Yeah, pork chop.
And he was there every year, and then all of a sudden, he wasn't for a few years. And then you saw him again, and then you'd see him somewhere else. And so how often do these associations get a fresh face in for the crowd, because it's the same crowd every year?
Yeah, so, in the rodeo clown world, we know that, we're not going, I may come to Emporia, Kansas, this year, next year, the year after, and somewhere in there, and it's not, we don't get upset about it. We know, hey, give us a break from the crowd, give the crowd a break from us. That way we don't burn ourselves out and ruin ourselves here. We're going to switch out and go to another event. Yes, absolutely, love to come back here, but there's times, you swap entertainers out and rodeo clowns out, and some do, some don't. Some guys, look at the PBR in Flint. Flint's been there for 20 years.
Sure.
Flint was kind of the founder of the new style entertainer.
Yeah, and I think too, like, one difference is I feel like with like a guy like Flint, that's kind of the face.
Yeah.
He's a face, a foundational face where you're going to see that, and I don't know that everybody kind of is even set up that way.
Yeah, some places, some places, that they'll call you and say, hey, we want you back. A great example, the Battle of the Bulls in Bell, Missouri.
Oh, yeah.
Great bull riding, and a great cause, and the cheapest bull riding you'll ever get into in your life, $5.
Yeah.
And it's put on by all women. The Yaw-Yaws. Cindy Butler and her crew, man, they are awesome. I have been there a long time, and I don't think they see me ever leaving there. I will go back.
I will say this, even like with Pork Chop, right, in Troy, when he left, there were some people that struggled with that.
Yeah,
he was there for so long,
Yeah.
and then they just expect it, and the uniqueness of Pork Chop, is,
Yeah.
you just.
Yeah. you know.
So you kind of maybe some of these places, and you really do build a relationship with the crowd, and the association sees that, and it's not something where they're the burnout. It's really something where it's kind of that, you know, you want that every year, and they look forward to it, and you look forward to it, and
Oh, absolutely. There's, I mean, fortunately, I'm blessed enough to get to do this for a living. I get to go up and down the road, and I thank God every day for that. I do.
you're like, I mean, me and Keith, we tracked it. We're over 40,000 miles. After this summer,
Oh,
going
yeah.
up to Burgers Bulls, like we'll probably put between 70 and 100,000 miles.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Down and so
rodeoing for a living, you're really good at wearing vehicles out.
brand vehicles out, no
Yeah.
joke. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, and
Like,
for you're set up. You're about like us.
Yep.
You take whatever.
Yep.
You're not dealing with the sound. You're not bringing the sound stuff.
Yep.
You have the production that bring that. Actually, is it the announcer? Is that who?
Yeah,
Do they
the-
bring their own sound equipment, or
Yes.
does the producer?
Usually the announcer brings it, or they'll hire just a guy to bring the sound and run the music, and then the announcer just shows up with the microphone, plugs in, and goes on.
How this was?
No. Monty brought some sound and his music and stuff like that. So yeah. But like you said, I mean, shoot, I'll be in Georgia, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois. I'm all over the place. I mean, spend a lot of time up north. This year. So, yep. NFPBs. IPRA rodeos. I mean, I'm everywhere. BOAs. Like,
Yeah. Speaking of NFPBs, all of them are now listed on the app,
that's awesome.
and I'm excited about that because every single event that we're doing is now listed on the app.
Yes.
And I hope that drives traffic because one of the biggest things that, like, I really, we created this app. Me and Vinny,
Yep.
the co-founder, we created this app to help connect people.
Yes.
And this, make it more easily, make it easier to connect. Where social media is great, it's awesome.
Yep.
Facebook, Instagram, all of it's perfect. We want every single person on the app to grow their following.
Yep.
But we also want people to be able to connect better, and part of that is rodeo contract personnel.
Yeah.
And so, kind of as we grow that, I mean, we're hoping for people to these producers or committees to be able to go on there and be like, "Hey, look, this is where we're at. We need a funny man."
Yep.
And then they can go to your profile and kind of find,
Yep.
and see kind of what you're doing,
Yep.
the acts you're putting on, and kind of make those decisions, and hopefully, kind of for the benefit of you.
Yeah, and give me a call and hire me.
Yeah, for sure.
It's kind of funny. Last July, you called me and told me about the Western Edge app, and
And that was before By the way, that was before it was out. Like
Yeah.
this was before we even had it on the App Store.
Yeah.
I mean, it was still in like the very beginnings.
Yeah. I was one of the first people to sign up for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing,
It was at a NFPB in Washington,
Yep.
Missouri.
Yep.
It was my first one back from knee surgery.
Yep, and you talked to me about it there, and then a couple days later, I was driving, and you called me again, and I downloaded the app, and I told you, I said, man, I said, that's great. I said, I like it. I said, you didn't have a category for us yet, and I helped you all, name and build that category.
It's one of the things, like, if part of this podcast,
Yeah.
one of the big parts of this podcast is being able to learn
Yeah,
about this industry,
Yeah.
about this Western demographic, from rodeo to equine to the fans. I mean, we're doing ticketing for this event.
yes.
And it's free. So giving back to the Western demographic
Absolutely.
is I'm so passionate about that. This lifestyle, this way of life has, I was brand new to it when I started at 18.
Yeah.
It was a whole different culture, and they take you in, and just about everybody is accepted, and being able to give back, and I know the struggles that I had coming up finding rodeos, and
Yeah.
especially at the very beginning, because I didn't grow up in it. I
Yeah.
didn't know about any of
Yeah.
these, and so then now I have the opportunity to learn about people that are putting up, the shoots.
Yeah.
And, the people that are bringing in the panels.
Yeah.
Whether a producer is renting out these shoots,
Yeah.
or whether it's a fixed arena that's already
Yeah.
here, and, building in the ticketing, and, not charging like Ticketmaster, and not charging like these other ones, making it completely free for the producer. So
Yeah.
there's no risk for them, in order to give back, because, with what we have, really, when you get down to the monetary aspects, we're doing this to give back.
Yeah.
There's no other way around that. So, the podcast, kind of learning all of these things, being able to interview, guys like you in these different disciplines, it allows for me to learn more about, this sport, and how we at Western Edge can kind of start to, you know, give back in different ways and kind of connect people.
Absolutely. Like you said, the cowboy culture is the most accepting culture. Look at Bobby Del Vecchio. He was from New York City, the Bronx. And a kid raised in the concrete jungle become one of the best bull riders in the world. Like any walk of life. I mean, you can be from any walk of life, never seen a rodeo, come to your first one and go, man, I want to do that. Start hanging around the right people, bam, you're a cowboy. At first, you might dress a little goofy, your hat might look a little funny, and we might kind of snicker a little bit, but the cowboys, there's a code. We take care of our own people.
We were actually reading too, me and Vinny on Forbes came out with an article about the Western demographic being the most honest and genuine demographic.
Yeah.
And if you're going to start a business, then doing so within the Western demographic is the best umbrella.
Yeah.
Just because it's genuine,
Yeah.
Hey there, folks. I want to tell you about my favorite cowboy hat brand, Sombrero Brands. As a professional bull rider, I know how important it is to have a hat that not only looks good, but can withstand the toughest rides out there. And that's exactly what Sombrero Brands delivers. Their hats are custom fitted and shaped to perfection, with a level of attention to detail that's hard to find these days. But what really sets Sombrero Brands apart is the fact that they're a family-owned and operated business. Mark and Kendall Holler, the owners, and their daughter Sarah, who's only 13 but already a hat-making prodigy, are all passionate about their craft. They know what it takes to make a cowboy hat that can stand up to anything the rodeo circuit can throw at it. And get this, the founder's grandfather, Polly Holler, was born and raised at South Camp on the 4-6's ranch. These folks have got cowboy blood running through their veins, and it shows in every hat they make. That's why I'm proud to have Sombrero Brands as a major sponsor for my podcast, the Rodeo Wagon Podcast. So if you're in the market for a hat that's tough enough to handle anything the rodeo throws at it, give Sombrero Brands a try. Trust me, you won't be disappointed.
Nobody, we really don't care about if somebody's got $1,000 pair of boots on. Hey, great, if you can afford it, wear them. I'm all about it, baby. Whatever floats your boat. We all walk behind them bucking chutes, and y'all have your bags, I have my stuff. We all sit there and talk, and there is no difference in any of us. And we all know that. And that's the thing I love about this sport, about this culture, about the Western demographic, is, it's kind of crazy. I always tell everybody, well, all my best friends I met through rodeo. I talked to just a couple of guys that I went to high school with. They do the 9-to-5 hustle. Hey, and I'm glad they do. They've got families. It's awesome, and we get to travel the world and see things that people have never seen. And
what did I tell you yesterday?
Yeah.
What did I tell you yesterday? when you're back there, it was cold. It's a cold. It's muddy, and you're like.
Yeah.
You just like, man, this sucks, and it's muddy. You're freaking, to your knees out there.
Yeah.
And I just had to pause for a second because you said that, and it hit me, and so I said, hey, you are living the dream right now.
Yeah. Yes.
Most people will work and work and work, and they'll work for things that never give you that.
Yeah. And that hit me, and I was like, people would kill to be in my position.
They would, yeah.
You know, I mean, yeah, you know, I do construction and take care of cattle when I'm at home, and
when you're not at home, because you did that this morning.
yeah, work cows this morning. But anyway, yeah, you know, it's, you know, it's one of them deals, you know, like, you know, like we get to live dreams. I mean, everybody I've ever met growing up as a little kid wanted to be a cowboy. You know, seen a horse, watched the cowboy movies, you know, wanted to be a cowboy. Well, I'm 30 years old and I'm living my dream. You know, I'm making a living and paying my bills and building my brand and living my dream. And, you know, like I've had friends and family say, and I'm sure you have, and anybody who rodeos for a living, I'm sure they've heard this. When you gonna quit that and get a real job? I'm like, dude, I made more money than you last year rodeoing. Don't even go there. Like, you know.
And you know, that's another thing too, though. Even if you don't, okay, I respect the weekend warrior, right? Maybe as much as the professional.
Absolutely.
And I do, because the love of the sport.
Yeah.
You know, I was telling, you know, after you know, going up to that draft and what happened, you know, and all of that, and maybe we'll talk about that in another podcast.
Yeah.
But talking to Keith on the way back, and just, I love this sport. I love this sport for the purity of it, you know? And then we showed up here, and we're right here behind the chutes.
Yeah.
Here, I'll take a picture, and...
Yeah, I mean, the bulls are right there.
They're right there.
Yeah.
Maybe we can add this in.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll add that picture in so you guys can see. We're right here behind the chutes. You know, we're in Emporia, Kansas.
Yeah.
Not a major metropolitan, you know, place, you know.
Lot of farm around here.
But
a lot of farming.
It has that feel,
Yeah.
you know, and just talking about just the love of the sport and and where you started, and so the weekend warrior, man, they work 40 hours during the week.
Yep.
They hustle. And what do they want to do on the weekend?
They want to go rodeo.
They want to go rodeo.
Yeah, exactly.
And man, that's so cool. And there's millions of those people out there. And I think to me, that is the foundation of this sport. You know, the high level, we all want to get there.
Yeah.
And you bust your butt and you grind and you keep grinding. And anybody that wants to get there, if you grind hard enough, you can get there.
It's 100% blood, sweat, and tears. And at some point, you're gonna sit down and go, "Why am I doing this?" You know.
But the people that work a 40-hour week, that they're not out here making money, and they know it, you know, but they just love it.
Yeah, and you know what? They may draw the rankest bull in the pen and get on him and almost ride him and get off with a smile. You know, and even if they got one jump, you know why? Because they're with their friends at a rodeo, living part of their dream. You know, their wife, you know, may have come with them. Their kids are getting to watch them do what they love, and they're happy. You know, and hey, that's what it's about. Just be happy, man. Like, I mean, do whatever makes you happy in life. That's my thing. You know.
Okay, so let's transition to this. You said you wanted to talk about faith a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a huge part of my life, and you know, we're on the road all the time, and you're talking about, you know, happiness and what that looks like, and as a professional doing this, it can become easy to struggle with fulfillment in life. And so what does your faith do, and how did that faith kind of help you find real fulfillment that is sustainable and not just a high you hit on the weekend and then you fall off of that high? Because we've all been there. I mean, your adrenaline on the weekend, it holds you up, and it's great, right? But without that sustaining fulfillment, you always kind of crash during the week, and then you're trying to recover for the next weekend.
Yeah, you know, I mean, faith is everything, you know, and I've not been perfect, and I'll tell anybody this that'll listen. I've not been perfect. You know, for a long time, you know, I thought the party lifestyle and multiple, you know, the women, the partying, you know, let's go to the club, let's dance, you know, let's find a new girl every night. You know, I thought that was, you know, oh, that's what cowboys do. That's, you know, that's rodeo. Well, then I learned it's not. You know, that's a big misconception with rodeo, but It's, you know,
Why do you think that is?
man, I don't know. I really don't. You know, everybody, you know, cowboys are wild. You know, you know, whether you're, you know, I mean, what we do is wild. You put it on paper
Yeah.
and read about it.
Me and Keith were watching a video the other day. This guy getting kicked in the back of the head, just going night night and posting it. And I looked at Keith. I said, you know, if I wasn't already in this, I'd wonder who in the world would want to do something like that. And
Yes.
then brag about it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. You know, I'm proud of what I'm doing. I'm proud to be a Christian. You know, I'll tell anybody that'll listen. The best day of my life was in 2017. I went to a deal called Riding on Faith. It was a Bible school, and I was still trying to fight bulls, and it was a bull riding Bible school. Cody Custer taught the bull riding. Chuck Swisher and Dusty Tuckness taught the bullfighting. Man, I had a bull. So I got to back it up a little bit. I was working for Isaiah Dunn in the back pins with the Amped Up tour, and I had two bulls get into a fight, and I ended up in the middle of them, and it popped my right hip out of socket, and I could hardly walk. So 3 weeks later, I went to New Mexico. Got through the first day. It was good. Hip was a little sore. Got some ice. Got up the next day. You know, we were bucking bulls, fighting bulls, and I had a bull hit me in that hip, and it popped out. And I was like, oh, man. Like, and, you know, I had to go to the medical tent, and they popped it back in, and, you know, they got to feeling around on it, and they're like, man, I probably wouldn't continue. Well, the very next day, I decided to give my life to the Lord. I got baptized in a river in New Mexico, the most beautiful setting. And you know what? Like, Chuck was giving a sermon, and I was like, and I just walked forward, and I was bawling. I mean, I was bawling, and I gave my life to the Lord right there. Like, you know, and I've tried to walk, you know, the straight and narrow. Hey, you know, we all mess up. And if anybody reads the book, you know, we're flesh. We're going to sin, you know, and it says that, you know, I mean, and like you told me last night, you know, your sins were forgiven on the cross. You know, the sin you're praying for to be forgiven of, it's already been forgiven. You know, it died on the cross with him. So, you know, just repenting and doing better. You know, just becoming a more godly person every day. You know,
I think too that's one thing. You know, in this kind of Western demographics of Western culture.
Yeah.
And it's very much, you know, pick yourself up by the bootstraps. I think it can be difficult at times because you know, we're in a sport where sometimes, not sometimes, you have to tough it out.
Yeah.
You have to grit it. You know, you have to make smart decisions.
Yeah.
Sometimes that toughness can actually prevent you from making tough decisions. And when it comes to, you know, our relationship with Christ and thankfulness, accepting
Yes.
accepting that forgiveness, you know, accepting what Christ has done, you know, that can be difficult because we want to do everything. So it's almost a pride thing that can fester up in us, you know, because of the nature of what we're doing. And I think it's good to be able to have buddies to talk about. Me and Keith, you know, going down the road, we're always engaging. There's times where I'll react a certain way and it's wrong. And then, okay, great example. Earlier this year, I got called for a slap. Clear as day, did not make the slap. Have every angle of video proof of it, right?
Yeah.
Cost me a lot of money. And so then I just lost it. Not in the arena. I was good, right? I got out of there, but I went into the locker room and I just lost it. I was upset, you know, and I was just, you know, and this happened 2 weekends in a row.
Yeah.
And the third weekend, it happened again.
Yeah.
And I walked in there and I apologized to the guys in the locker room because I did not bear the image of Christ well the last 2 weekends, and I did not handle it well. So that pride, and then when something's taken and it's not in your control, and you then that's when it's like, you know, that's when it really kind of produces in you that pride really comes out. So, but then Keith said something to me after I did that because I didn't think anything of it, and he said, Kyle, you did a really good job there. You know, you did a really good job there. And having that and then being able to talk and then being able to build each other up in the way of Christ, you know,
Yeah.
I think is a really good practice for, you know, all the kids coming up in rodeo. And, you know, it's easy to get caught up in and the crowds in that culture that again
Uh,
is very wild and worldly. Let's call
yeah,
it worldly,
yeah,
not um, instead of you know really surrounding yourself with people that are going to build you up, that are going to hold you accountable,
yeah.
right?
Absolutely. And just through life, the people you run with are the people, is who you'll become. If you're running with winners, and you're gonna become a winner.
This year we learned that, dude. Our vehicles this year going throughout the year won so much money and so many rounds. We run like, oh, it was, heck, I think we won like 11 rounds. There was like 4 events.
Yeah,
The amount of top tens is ridiculous. We rode so many bulls, and
yeah,
it's just you're together and you're winning, and you don't want to be the guy that's not.
yeah. No, and that brings back in that circles back to the faith thing. I mean, absolutely it does. And there's the people that say, oh well, God's not real. Why do you believe in God? I'm like, look what I do for a living. How can I not? I mean, we've seen the highest of highs and we've seen the lowest of lows, and with our friend group. I mean, we've seen our friends go to the top, and unfortunately, we've lost some. And it's one of them deals. I'm like, it comes full circle, but we know, like every one of us knows who our protector and savior is. Like, but you can walk out there and ask any of them, and they'll tell you exactly.
It's a very dangerous profession, and we've lost people that
Yeah, that meant the world to us.
and way too early.
Way too early,
And yeah, I think that whole danger side of things really it makes you ask the question, of destiny and what happens, and
Yeah.
and is there hope in how we answer that question? And the biblical worldview is the only worldview that gives you real hope about how it answers that question. The biblical worldview, and it's the only worldview that coherently and consistently connects to meaning in life, and knowing how we live now is actually a reflection of the hope we have in the life to come, and also the truth of where we came from.
Yeah.
It's 4:30. So what's your time look like?
We can go for just a little bit longer.
You let me know.
Yeah. So
What are you looking at? 4:45. What's your?
yeah, somewhere in there.
Somewhere there?
Yeah,
Okay.
about 15 more minutes.
You do your makeup.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
do it.
Yeah, I mean, we don't start till 7:30. I just gotta make sure my microphone works. Get, like I said, get the lay of the show, and then
So
yeah.
I'm interrupting your nap
No,
time.
yeah,
My
yeah.
bad. God dang it.
Well, you know what? We had to work cows today. It's
Well,
fine.
yeah,
But like going back to that, somebody the other day, and I do not remember who it was. And they, they're like, yeah, I they asked me this. I believe in God. They're like, do you? And I'm like, yeah, oh, absolutely. I said, God, Jesus, they're my foundation. I'm like, and they're like, like my whole life, families went to church, and they're like, how do you really know they're real? And I was like, man, it's just, I said, when you're just sitting there not saying a word and you just feel that calm come over you, I said, that's the Holy Spirit just coming over you. And they're like, I'm like, all right, look at it this way. You go your whole life believing. And at the end of it, you find out, say you were to find out it wasn't real. What'd you lose? I said, you go your whole life saying it's not real, and you find out it is real. I said, you have everything to lose. You know what I mean? That's one of them deals, and they kind of thought, they sat back and they were like, man, that's true. I mean, I was like, when you believe in God, you have nothing to lose. Like it's.
One of the biggest things for me too, like going through that journey, is like, along with that is the truth of it.
Yeah.
Right? And like what you kind of touching on, and that that kind of hope and stuff, is that experiential relevance of truth. Like, is it the gospel and the good news that Jesus Christ is Lord.
Yeah.
And experiencing the hope of that. And being able to actually, what does that hope look like? So, for me, one of the when people ask me what's the best bull ride that I've ever made, this is probably the best bull ride I've ever made, and I don't think it'll ever change. Not that I know of, because so far it is.
Yeah.
is when Mason Lowe passed. You know,
Yeah.
so Mason Lowe passed away in Denver,
Hmm.
and that next weekend we were in Columbus, South Carolina. Columbia, South Carolina. I don't know.
Yeah.
One of those. So we're in South Carolina, and kind of everybody's grieving in their own way.
Yeah.
And me and Keith, we're really close, and so we're talking about, whether we should go, whether we should turn out and just kind of be with our families and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I mean that
And
one hit everybody hard.
It hits everybody hard, and everybody grieves,
Yeah.
a little bit differently. But death, as bad as death is, that hope made us make the decision, not based on, that, but based on Mason alone.
Yeah.
Who did we lose? And we thought about it, and we're like, man, what would Mason do? And so we said, you know what? Mason would be at a bull riding, and he would be letting it hang, in the midst of it. Whether that's right or not, I don't know. But I can't speak for that. But that's a decision we came to. And that first bull ride came out there, and I did not gap one freaking, and freaking ribs every freaking round. And it's one of the most memorable bull rides.
Yeah.
I say best. The experiential relevance of that. It was huge, and that hope was not based on fear.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So fear had no hold over me.
Yeah.
And me and Keith, our decision was not based on, because there's also times where that can really make you question.
Yeah.
It can really make you question, like, wait a minute now. Like, we knew Mason. We traveled with Mason. We went down the road.
We were friends.
We were friends.
Yeah.
Like we were, we just saw him.
Yeah.
And that could be us.
Yeah.
And so, what is my face like? And you have to ask the question every time that happens. Is it makes you think about, what hope do we have?
Yeah.
And how strong is that hope? How strong is our faith in the truth?
Yeah.
Of what Christ has done?
Man, one of my biggest, them all night drives, when you're just those are the most thing that you can sit down and just talk to God and listen to what he's got to say, and that's like almost better in church for me. Like it is, because like you're just thinking.
Sometimes it is church. Me and Keith have watched so many sermons and church services at 2:30 in the morning. And then because you have so much time to think and contemplate, and I think one of the biggest reasons is when you're doing that is the distractions aren't all there. It's another reason why it doesn't fit with my. So if I'm hurt, like in the times when I've been hurt, I've liked the schedule better. But getting up real early, sometimes as early as 2:00 in the morning, doing my stuff doesn't fit, because then on the weekends, like generally I'm going to bed earlier then.
Yeah.
So it doesn't fit with the schedule. But when you wake up that early, or maybe you aren't waking up, maybe you just are up driving down the highway.
Yeah.
It's 2:00. Nobody's on their phone.
Yeah.
You can't. You go check Facebook. It's nothing.
Nothing.
No Instagram. So it allows for you to kind of meditate on the word. Maybe it's listen to a sermon. Maybe it's praying.
Yeah, it's just sitting there and letting the Holy Spirit come over you and just listening to what he's telling you. I mean, and I'll tell anybody, I'm a firm believer that right now in life, God has put this pedestal of being a rodeo clown, a bull riding entertainer, to help spread his word. Because hey, anybody that's listening, if y'all want to listen, y'all come find me at a bull riding, a rodeo. Come find me afterwards. Hey, I'll sit down and, you want to hear about the word? I know I'm not a preacher by any means, but we'll talk about it. I mean, that's one of them deals. Like if somebody wants to get into the gospel or just talk about God, hey, I'll sit down and talk all day with you. If you're struggling with something, get a hold of me. I'll talk all day, any day. My deal is, I've been through a lot of things in life, and I've had a lot of people help me, and I've had a lot of people help me get to where I'm at. So, and I'm blessed to be where I'm at, but it's one of those deals like, if somebody helps me, I'm going to give back 10 times. That's that's just always been my mentality. And it's one of them deals. Even with clowning, that's why, you know that's why I've only been doing this. I did my first event in 2019, and 2020 was supposed to be my first year. I did get to do about 10 performances, which was a blessing. And 2021, 22 was huge. 23 has blown up even bigger.
Yeah, for sure. I remember. You were almost brand new, Bowling Green, Missouri,
in 2020.
in 2020. Was that your first one?
That was like my third performance ever.
All right, so this was so funny because I can tell you now because at the time I couldn't, and I forget who it was. Some of us they're like, man, who is that guy? And like, I don't know. I don't,
Yeah.
I don't know. I said he's a funny man. He's just brand new. Like this,
Yeah.
this is literally he's just starting.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you better have some grace because this
Yeah.
is a whole different world. I mean,
Yeah.
most people are afraid to even be in front of anybody.
Yeah.
Like, so like, I remember when you first started right there, and now you got a full schedule. And
Yeah. I'm like I say, I've been to Florida, I've been to Pennsylvania this year. I mean, already, I had a pretty good winter. I've got an amazing spring, summer, and fall. And then I think next winter is going to be pretty good, And the funny thing is, I didn't want to be a rodeo clown. I never wanted to clown, really? Ever.
Okay, yeah, and so our VP of sales with Western Edge app was in Vegas, okay, at the NFR, right?
Uh-huh.
And he came up to me and he said, Todd Pettigrew. He said, I'm pretty sure he was there.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dad was there.
So, all right. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
all right. So he's like Todd Pettigrew. He's like, is he related to Tyler? And I said, this is what I told him. I said, no, they're not related. I've always wondered that, but they're not. They're not related at all. I don't. It's just kind of one of those weird coincidences. I don't know anybody else named Pettigrew, but I do know these two guys.
Yeah.
And I do know Todd. I said I do know Todd, but he's like, okay. If I talk to him, I thought about mentioning. I'm like, yeah. I mean, he probably knows Tyler, but they don't.
Yeah,
they're
turns
not
out, no,
related.
he's my dad.
Yeah. So then I find out that like, no, that is your dad. And I'm like, man, that's hilarious. Cause I knew both of you, completely separate and had no idea.
Yeah.
So you were kind of raised all around this from the very beginning.
Man, my dad was a bareback rider and a bull rider. A lot of people don't know that. He went to the National High School Finals 4 times in the bareback riding. Would have rode bareback horses for a long time and was really good at it. And he had 2 shoulder surgeries before he was out of high school, so he, it just wasn't holding up for him. And it's a genetic thing. I mean, we have bad my grandpa, my dad, my uncles, cousins, my sisters, we all have bad shoulders. Our shoulders, my right shoulder will just pop out of socket when I'm sleeping. You wake up.
Oh, yeah. I've had 3 shoulder surgeries.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
That's not fun.
Yeah. So, and then Dad was a professional bullfighter. He worked PRCA rodeos, worked, I think, 8 or 9 NFPB finals in a row, 8 BOA finals in a row, the Great Lakes Circuit finals in the PRCA. Yeah, I mean, he's been everywhere, and, what he's done is really cool. He's been a PRCA bullfighter, and now he's got his PRCA card for clowning. And, he clowns rodeos, and like I said, I never wanted to be a clown. I wanted to be a bull rider. I rode bulls, and then I quit riding bulls. And then I started fighting bulls, and I fought bulls, and then I quit fighting bulls. And I went to work for Isaiah, and I was just kind of like, I like this, I like being around the cattle, I like taking care of them. I was like, yeah, this is all right, and I'd go work for other people and stuff. Well, then Dad talked me into clowning a little youth rodeo, a little youth bull riding deal, and I did it. And then, bam, next thing you know, Lance McCollum with Outlaw 5J calls me and gives me the whole 2020 Outlaw run, and I'm like, I've only done this once, and I'm not even sure I want to do it again.
The first time you did it, was it at Kansas City?
No, that was the second time. Yeah, I the first time I did it was in Syracuse, Missouri at Brett Watering's
Oh, it's one
Double
of
B.
Brett's.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Double B.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I did that, and then, like you said, Kansas City, they had that little clown challenge thing, and I entered that. I took second, and then I think I did another little youth bull riding that winter, and then 2020 happened. the Rona hit us, and we didn't get to go anywhere, do anything, and yeah, dude, it was so depressing. Yeah. And then it was Bowling Green was my first summer rodeo with Outlaw, and I did that one, and I was like, all right, I did some more, and I was like, man, I kind of like this. And then 21 happened, and I picked up a bunch more events, and then ended up working the Missouri finals. It was the Clown of the Year in Missouri in 2021. I was like, dude, this is like my first actual year, and I got I won that award and got the finals. This is awesome. And then 22, picked up a bunch of IPRA rodeos, and now 23, bull riding's IPRA rodeos. I think I did 80 some odd events last year. Right at 80, same. I texted you how many events, 70 or 80 again this year, and I've already done about 10 so far, this year. So I think I got 70 some odd events left, that I know of.
Yeah, now it's really just getting started for you.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been, the PBR kind of at the beginning of the year runs pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Obviously, their season now it's from November to May.
Yeah.
So, for us in the wintertime and stuff,
You're going
we're
hard.
going hard.
Yeah.
And you're still going hard in the summer. We're just now making that transition.
Yeah.
But for you, probably May, just now, you're really starting to hit hard. You're going to go pretty hard from now until when? End of August?
End of October, pretty well.
October?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
when you'll kind of have a little bit of a slowdown.
Yeah.
You'll still have some stuff,
Oh yeah,
but-
yeah. I did 3 weeks in Pennsylvania in a row in February, and then
A lot of these places, do you know people? You're staying at people's houses? Are
Yeah,
you telling it?
sometimes shout out to my friends Alan and Jamie. They live in St. Clairsville, Ohio. It's 20 miles from Wheeling, West Virginia.
I went around.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. So they've anytime I'm out that way, they've got a hunting cabin, and they call it a hunting cabin. I call it my dream home.
That was the event. Okay.
Yeah. My little friend Carly was wanting to meet you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she come to one of them events in Pennsylvania and won she was a Western Edge Fan of the Night. Yeah.
Coming together.
Yeah. So, we did that, and when I'm out there, they put me up and they take care of me. They've become such amazing people, and I met them last year, and I went to Ohio and deer hunted on their ranch last year and had a blast. I mean they're such great people, and they take such great care of me when I'm out there, and they don't have to, and I'm and that's the thing about the rodeo world, again, our people, we take care of our people, and I mean, a lot of times, I got a little trailer that I stay in that I, kind of done up a little bit. And, I've got a bed and an air conditioner and a little fridge and stuff in there, and I'll sleep in there, or I'll get a hotel or stay at a friend's house, I mean, we've got friends everywhere, Yeah, I mean, it ain't hard to find a couch to sleep on, or somebody to split a hotel room with, or, whatever. But yeah, I try to take my trailer most places, or, I try to avoid buying hotels because I think they're a waste of money, but
Good prime example. I
Yeah.
mean, heck, we got this van.
Yeah.
Yeah. Podcast studio. Also
bedroom.
the Wagon Inn.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody asks me where I'm sleeping. This is where we're sleeping.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
We get a gym membership. We go in, work out. Take a shower.
Yep. Go get some food. Yep. No. That's pretty much how that's the way I do it. I'm a truck stop, showers, gyms, whatever, just rodeo bumming it. Yeah.
You almost like it better. something about it. Like you're not gonna get that back. Just living.
Yeah.
Man, you know, and
You
the
ain't-
amount of living that we get to do, and as far as just getting to see this country, to getting experience it.
Oh,
in
absolutely.
rugged, you know,
Yeah.
type ways, and then you still have those fancy hotels.
Oh, yeah.
You know, those nice stadiums, but you know, you kind of get to see everything.
Yeah.
You get to do everything, experience, you know,
Hey,
all of it.
you ain't lived till you've had a truck stop shower.
That's right. That's right. You know, we competed at me, Keith, and Matt Weary's.
Yeah.
If you remember Matt back in the day, so we went up to it's at Cavalier Stadium.
Yeah.
And we were brushing our teeth in the parking lot, and then you know we would go in, and you know you're in this freaking nice stadium. You're like, I
Yeah.
doubt LeBron James is brushing his teeth out
And
in the parking lot.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, his private driver rolled him up
Yeah.
there. Yeah, but yeah, as Cowboys, we're brushing our teeth or going, sweet, they've got a locker room to shower in.
Yeah. And they do actually.
Yeah.
That's a funny thing. I never even thought about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Almost every single one of them has a shower in there.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. You know, I mean, that's, you know, I mean, it's, you know, rodeo, everyone's like, man, it's so cool. I'm like, oh, man, it's great to take truck stop showers all the time.
I'm gonna tell Keith that next time. Be like, hey, we just need to start showing up to the bull ride earlier.
Yeah, you know, like I'm like, yeah, man, trust me, it's great to be a glorified carny and you know, show up and take truck stop showers and eat fast food all year round. You know, I mean, but it is, you know, I mean, like you told me last night, this is somebody else's dream too, as along with ours, and we're getting to live it.
Yes, we should be thankful.
We and I am very thankful, and I know you are too. You know, bull riding has provided for your beautiful family, and has provided you all so much. I mean, you know, it's your living. You know, I mean, it's what takes care of your wife and kids. You know, and it's what takes care of me and old Rooster, the rodeo dog.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Man, you know what? I'm glad you got to come on.
I am too.
We'll do it again.
Yes.
Man, I'm just thankful for, you know, getting to, you know, go down the road, getting to hang out with good people, learn
Yeah.
about people, you know, and I hope that kind of, you know, as we go forward, you know, I can learn more about the entertainment
Yeah.
side of the rodeo world and how we at Western Edge can
Yeah.
kind of help
Oh yeah.
connect people and make it more make it easier for people to kind of, you know,
Yeah.
connect with you and find you and your career.
Yeah, what the Western Edge app is great. You know, if you're listening to this and you haven't downloaded it, go to your Google Play or App Store, download it. It is worth it. You can keep up with what I'm doing. If you're a rodeo person, you can find the events. You know, you can advertise yourself, market yourself. It's what Western Edge app is the real deal. It's the next level for professional rodeo and the Western demographic.
Okay, so before we go, social media tags. What are your handles?
Tyler Pettigrew on Facebook, Tyler Pettigrew Professional Rodeo Clown on Facebook, Tyler Pettigrew on Instagram, Tyler Pettigrew on TikTok, Tyler Pettigrew on Snapchat. I'm gonna put you on the spot right here. So I have a podcast too, the No Fun Zone.
Yeah.
So everybody go over and check out the No Fun Zone podcast. That's me.
It's on Spotify. You
Spotify.
can go to Western Edge app and
Yep.
go to our podcast categories.
It's on
Apple.
It's on
Pretty much all of them?
yep. It's on the
Yeah.
Apple podcast.
Perfect.
So I want you to be a guest on our podcast
Heck yeah.
here coming up.
You let me know, and we can schedule it
Yes.
out. Yeah, I'm all about
Perfect. Perfect. All right, Cameron, if you listen to this, Kyle Jones is going to be one of our next guests.
it. Sounds good.
Thanks for having me on, man.
Love
This
you,
was
brother.
fun. Yeah, love you too.
We'll talk to you later.
Yes, sir.
See you guys.